Shalom. My name is Rabbi Chaim Weiner. I'm really pleased to be taking part in this celebration of Jewish learning. I wanted to talk about the differences between the way they studied Torah in Sefarad, Spain, and the way they did so in Ashkenaz. The city in the picture behind me is Girona. Girona is the northernmost Jewish center in Spain, and from a Jewish point of view, it was on the most important border between Sefarad and Ashkenaz, the important cultural centers in the Jewish world in the Middle Ages. It's here in Girona that Spanish Jews first learned about Ashkenazi customs and practices. And it's here when the first integration between the two cultures took place. This alleyway is in the old town of Girona. It's just in front of the building that was the home of Nachmanides, Ramban, one of the most important scholars of Girona. Here I am in the courtyard of Nachmanides' house. Nachmanides is the most important rabbi to have come from Girona. He wrote a commentary on the Bible and many important explanations of the Talmud. He was a philosopher and a mystic and one of the early scholars of Kabbalah. He was a personal physician of James I, the King of Aragon. In many ways, he represents Spanish Jewish scholarship, and he's a great example of the differences between Sefarad and Ashkenaz. I'd like to show you some examples of how this works. We'll take an example from Nachmanides' commentary to the Torah. This is his commentary to Genesis, chapter 6, verse 14. It's taken from the story of Noah and the ark. It comes at the very beginning of the story, and it talks about God's command to Noah to build the ark. Aseh lecha tevat atzei gofer, kinim ta'aseh et hateva, ve'kafarta ota mibayit u'michutz b'gofer. Make an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shall you make the ark, and shall pitch it inside and outside with pitch. Let's look at Nachmanides' commentary. The first thing that you can notice, before we look at any of the content, is the difference between how Ashkenazi and Sephardi commentators comment. Here on the right-hand side, we have Rashi's commentary, the typical Ashkenazi commentary. And here on the right-hand side, we have Nachmanides' commentary. Just look at the difference of the length of the commentary. Rashi's commentary is very short, and Ashkenazi commentaries tend to be short. Nachmanides, on the other hand, is almost 4 times the length, and that's typical of Sephardi commentary because they have other things that they want to do, and they need more words in order to do them. So how are they different in content? Let's look at what they actually say. So here we have the actual commentaries. Rashi at the beginning, and later on Ramban. Again, without looking at the actual content, let's just look at the format. Rashi says what he wants to say. He has no sources, and he doesn't quote anyone else. Ramban, on the other hand, quotes lots of other people. For example, here he says, just as our rabbis have said, and he quotes a midrash of the rabbis of the Talmud. Later on, he says, do not be persuaded to say it's Ibn Ezra did, and he includes Ibn Ezra's commentary. Ashkenazim tend to focus on themselves and their own understanding. They, if they mention other rabbis, do so mainly in order to critique them and to say that they disagree. Sephardi rabbis have much more respect for the rabbis of previous generations. They would never just disagree with a previous rabbi without a very good explanation of why. And they always like to quote what their teacher said before they give their own opinion. This respect means that their commentaries need to be longer. Now let's look at the content itself. Rashi quotes a midrash. He says there are numerous ways which God could have saved Noah. Why did he burden him with the construction of the ark? In other words, he has a problem. The problem is, why didn't God just create the ark by himself? And why did he make this old man work for 500 years in order to construct the ark? And he gives an explanation that the building of the ark was actually an educational activity. God wanted Noah to take 500 years building the ark so that people could see him and ask him why he's doing that. And he would have the chance to warn them about what was going to happen. Nachmanides also gives an explanation. His problem is that no matter how big the ark was, it would never be big enough in order to hold all of those animals. So the question is, if God was going to make a miracle in order to make the animals fit into the ark, why couldn't he have done an even bigger miracle and let the animals fit into an even smaller ark, or to save the animals without having to build the ark at all? He gives his explanation, but the important line that I want to emphasize is here in the third paragraph. It says he made it large to reduce the miracle, for such is the way of all the miracles of the Torah or the prophets. Whatever is humanly possible is done, and the balance is left to heaven. So Nachmanides both explains that God doesn't like to do miracles and does them as infrequently as possible. He likes things to be more or less in the natural order. But besides explaining what's happening here, he gives a general philosophical principle about the whole Torah, because Ashkenazi rabbis are interested in the local verse, in grammatical problems, and things that are on the spot, whereas the Sephardi rabbis are interested in the big philosophical questions, and they want to answer things not only about this place, but also about the whole Torah. Ashkenazi rabbis look at verses, and they look at words, but Sephardi rabbis look at paragraphs and at chapters and at whole sections of the Torah. Their interests are much wider, and therefore their commentaries need to be much bigger. This was just an introduction to one small aspect of the differences between Sephardi and Ashkenazi learning. The wisdom of Sephardi rabbis is immense. I hope that this introduction has whetted your appetite and you'll be interested in learning more. I hope you'll enjoy that scholarship as much as I do.